Right, good afternoon. I'm Christian Guy, I'm the Director of the Centre for Social Justice. On behalf of the CSJ and our Chairman Mark Floorman, it is fantastic to welcome you all here. I know we have a keen and expert audience, and an honour for the CSJ to host our Prime Minister as he makes this landmark criminal justice speech. The CSJ was established to put social justice at the heart of British politics. We exist to change the debate about poverty and disorder by strengthening the things that tend to prevent them, such as stable families and safe childhoods, inspirational education, the rewards of work instead of welfare dependency. To do this, I make sure our team spends as much time outside of Westminster as possible, rooted in the most disadvantaged communities around the UK, learning from those whose lives have been damaged by social breakdown. We set a public policy agenda, but we do so in an unusual, deeply practical way. This is because since 2004, when Ian Douglas Smith founded the Centre, the CSJ has built a unique alliance of more than 350 small, brilliant charities. These groups are working with people most of us have written off. They're getting heroin addicts clean. They're on the stairwells at 1 AM taking young people out of street gangs. They're under the bridge with the homeless. They're teaching the 30-year-old prisoner how to read, how to write. These organisations and their leaders typify what the Prime Minister means by the big society. They prove that tackling poverty has to start with transforming lives. And they shape every one of the ideas we present as a think tank to the political community. As we've spent time alongside these pioneers, learning from the hope they bring to the darkest areas, we've encountered the criminal justice system at almost every turn. Crime damages every area. Nothing excuses it, and people should be punished. Yet its anarchy is most prevalent in our deprived neighbourhoods. Our courtrooms and prisons are full of shocking and often preventable social failure. And that's why, in our view, social justice and criminal justice should go hand in hand. From his first day as Conservative leader, it's been incredibly encouraging to hear David Cameron talking about targeting the root causes of crime and dealing with our jaw-dropping reoffending rates. And as part of the Prime Minister's defining mission to mend our broken society, his government has made some really radical commitments to take that forward. Indeed, I hope we've been some use to him at the CSJ in doing so by presenting more than 200 recommendations for effective democratic policing, robust and honest sentencing to restore public trust, a key role for volunteers, charities and innovative private sector groups, and busy, high expectation prisons. The CSJ believes prisoners should go to bed tired at the end of every day. So alongside our launch of a major new review about social justice, our second Breakthrough Britain report, the CSJ is planning further criminal justice work to inform the debate between now and the next general election. Because one thing is clear. For the sake of tomorrow's victims, Britain's law-abiding majority, and those who are on a destructive crime path, there is no time to waste. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the stage what promises to be a formative speech for anybody interested in the Coalition's next phase of justice reform, the Prime Minister.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, and thank you, Christian, for that introduction. In the spirit of what you said about practical experience, I've come straight here from Wormwood Scrubs, where I was visiting. I hasten to add in a purely professional capacity. But it's great to be back at the Centre for Social Justice. And you could say we've been on something of a journey together, because it was on my first day as leader of the Conservative Party, almost 7 years ago, feels like yesterday, I know, that I asked Ian Douglas Smith and the CSJ to produce a radical programme to tackle Britain's deepest social problems. And that landmark report, Breakthrough Britain, has been a major influence on this government and how we're helping the most disadvantaged in our society. So I'm very pleased to hear that Breakthrough Britain 2 is on its way, and I look forward to seeing those new ideas and continuing on that journey. Now, 2 weeks ago, I spoke about this government's mission to build an aspiration nation, where those who work hard can get on and no one gets left behind. A stronger private sector, welfare that works, schools that teach. Today I want to talk about another critical part of helping people to rise up, and that is confronting the crime and the bad behaviour that holds too many people down. Go to some neighbourhoods in our country and you can feel that aspiration is dead. Children learning from a young age that life is about surviving, not thriving. Gang leaders as role models, drug dealers as careers advisors. This doesn't just matter to the elderly lady with 5 bolts on her door or the woman terrified to walk home in the dark. It matters to all of us. We will not rise as a country if we leave millions behind and write off whole communities. So today I want to tell you about our approach to crime and justice and the bold and unprecedented action that we're taking. Now for many people, when it comes to crime, I'm the person associated with those 3 words, 2 of which begin with H and 1 of which is hoodie. Although I never actually said it, and as you've noticed, I haven't said it again today. For others, I'm a politician who's argued frequently for tough punishment. So do I take a tough line on crime or a touchy-feely one? Now, in no other area of public debate do the issues get as polarised as this. On climate change, you don't have to be in complete denial on the one hand or campaigning to get every car off the road on the other. Life isn't that simple, so government policy isn't that simple either. And yet with the crime debate, people seem to want it black or white. Lock them up or let them out. Blame the criminal or blame society. Be tough or act soft. We're so busy going backwards and forwards that we never actually move the debate on. What I've been trying to do, in opposition and now in government, is to break out of this sterile debate and show a new way forward. Tough, but intelligent. Now we need to be tough because the foundation of effective criminal justice is personal responsibility. Committing a crime is always a choice. That's why the primary, proper response to crime is not explanations or excuses. It is punishment, proportionate, meaningful punishment. And when a crime is serious enough, the only thinkable punishment is a long prison sentence. That is what victims and society deserve. Victims need to know that the criminal will be held to account and dealt with. And the society bit really matters. Retribution is not a dirty word. It is important to society that the revulsion we all feel against crime is properly recognised and acted on by the state on our behalf. But punishment is also what offenders both deserve and need too. It says to them, you are adults, your actions have consequences. To treat criminals as victims, to say they had no choice, that would be to treat them like children. I firmly believe it is their right to be treated as adults with the responsibility to carry the consequences of their actions. But that's not the whole story. Just being tough is not a strategy in itself. Come with me to any prison in this country, and there you will meet, yes, muggers, robbers, and burglars. But you'll also meet young people who can't read, teenagers addicted to drugs, people who've never worked a day in their whole lives. Now these people need help so they can become part of the solution and not remain part of the problem. Recognising this, it isn't soft, it's not liberal or wishy-washy, it is common sense. We'll never create a safer society unless we give people, especially young people, opportunities and chances away from crime. Prevention is the cheapest and most effective way to deal with crime. Everything else is simply picking up the pieces after failure that has gone before. That's part of what I mean by being intelligent as well as tough. Not just saying what people want to hear, not playing to the gallery, but thinking hard about dealing with the causes of crime as well as the fallout. And today, being intelligent too has got to mean something else as well. Achieving our ambitions when there is much less money than there used to be. The politics of the blank cheque are well and truly over. The only way to achieve our ambitions is through reform, radical, intelligent reform. So much of what went wrong in public services under the last government wasn't because the money was missing, it was because the methods were wrong. Top-down, bureaucratic, centralised. Judging every service by the money you put in rather than by the service you get out. Our whole reform agenda is about turning this on its head, going from big government to big society, more choice, more competition, more openness. Now you see it in welfare providers paid by their results, You see it in hospitals now publishing their results online. And some say, well, look, this is fine in welfare, fine with hospitals, fine with schools, but it won't work with criminal justice. They think when it comes to keeping people safe, we've got to stick with the old state-heavy approach. I believe that's wrong. It was the old approach that gave us police stuck behind desks, filling in forms. It left us with the criminal justice system chasing ridiculous and unhelpful targets. And it left us, frankly, with what we have today, sky-high reoffending rates. So we're bringing the logic of our public service reform agenda, transparency, payment by results, accountability, to transform criminal justice too. Because every part of the system, I believe, needs change. Every part needs tough but intelligent reform. And today I want to explain how that's working right through the criminal justice system. Let me start with the police. I am profoundly grateful for the job that our police officers do. Years ago, I used to run near Wormwood Scrubs every morning, and on my route there was a small stone monument, and it simply said this: "Here fell P.S. Christopher Head, P.C. Geoffrey Fox, P.C. David Wombwell, 12th of August 1966. It was to me a daily reminder of this very simple truth. Police officers put on their uniform in the morning, they kiss their children goodbye, and they leave home having no idea about the dangers they might face. Just a few weeks ago, police constables Nicola Hughes and Fiona Bone answered a 999 call without knowing where it would lead. And though PC Ian Dybell was off duty, he too couldn't have imagined what he would come up against. These people were professional, brave, and instinctively selfless. The same can be said of thousands of police officers who work on our streets, protecting our families, day in, day out. All of us owe them our thanks, and all of us owe them our respect. And for all those who wear the uniform, it is essential that we get policing right. For years, police officers were held back from doing the job they signed up for. We had targets like the offences brought to justice target, which encouraged the police to chase easy wins. I remember being out on the beat with a police officer in South Wales, and he felt that he had to book a boy for taking some money from his mum's purse, rather than just give him a stiff talking to down at the nick, because that's what the targets, that's what the culture demanded. He knew it was ridiculous. Everyone knew it was ridiculous, but the targets effectively forced his hand. And then there was the out-of-control bureaucracy. Police officers spending almost half their shift on paperwork. So Theresa May is doing what so many Home Secretaries before her have shied away from, and that is fundamentally reforming the police and allowing them to get on with the tough, no-nonsense policing that they want and we want. We've scrapped all the targets and given them a single core objective to cut crime. We've ended micromanagement from Whitehall and returned professional discretion to local forces. The notion that you had to fill out a form every time you stopped someone on the street, that has gone. The endless looking up for instruction from some official in the Home Office, that is over. And we're going further, reforming police pay so it rewards crime fighting, not just time served, and changing the leadership of the police too. Our reforms are comprehensive, they're sophisticated, and I believe they're working. HMIC, independent regulator, found that even at a time of tight budgets, the frontline service is being protected, response times are being maintained, public satisfaction is up, and crime is down. And if you like official figures, here are some more. Even though in real terms, central police spending cuts are around 20% over 4 years. The latest figures, out at the end of last week, show that crime is down 6% in the last year. Now, I think all of this proves two quite important things. Labour said if we cut police spending, we'd hurt the front line, and they were wrong. Neighbourhood policing has gone up. And Labour said smaller budgets would mean higher crime. Again, they were wrong. Crime is down. We can have tough and effective policing when money is tight. I pay tribute to the chief constables of all those in the police services up and down our country who are making that happen. We also need to bring intelligent reform too. More accountability and transparency to put people in charge of policing. That is what the police and crime commissioners are all about. Now these are big, important elections coming up. It's the first time they've been held, so we need to do a real job of trying to explain why they're so important. People are effectively going to be voting for their own law and order champion. One person who sets the budgets, sets the priorities, hires and fires the chief constable, bangs heads together to get things done. Now, some people are saying no one's bothered, that people aren't interested in how we fight crime in that area. I don't agree with that. I said, if you look at the crime maps, you come to a good conclusion. People said no one would care about transparency, but this website, your local crime map, has had 500 million hits and still rising. The more high-profile police and crime commissioners get, the more engaged people will be, and the more pressure they'll put on them to deliver tough local policing. So my message for these elections is clear. If you want more tough policing, you can get it. If you want coppers who are on the beat, on your street, cracking down on antisocial behaviour, focusing on the things you care about, don't just talk about it, get out there on November the 15th and vote for it. Intelligent reform is also happening at the national level too, with the National Crime Agency. This is, if you like, Britain's version of the FBI, recognising there are some highly serious and organised crime, human trafficking, money laundering, drugs rings, that need the very best in terms of national coordination. Now, the next part of the criminal justice chain is prosecution. And here again, we need tough but intelligent reform. Too often, the story is the same. Someone gets arrested in the middle of the night, they're bailed, and it takes months before they appear in court. Then the day dawns, and guess what? They disappear. It's why you get whole walls of police stations papered with pictures who are missing on bail. But we saw with the riots last summer, it doesn't have to be like that. Justice was swift and it was tough, and we want that all of the time. So we're opening our courts earlier in the morning, in the evenings and weekends, because crime doesn't keep normal working hours, and so neither should the criminal justice system. Already this is happening in 48 courts across the country. Another innovation is video links between police stations and courts. If someone is arrested, the police can flick the switch on a monitor and get them in front of a magistrate in hours rather than months. So effectively, no bail to jump, no cracks to slip through. And I think we need to toughen up the process in court as well. Today, once the verdict is passed, the defendant can stand in the witness box and make their case for a more lenient sentence. But too often the victim doesn't get a say. The one person whose life has been torn apart is effectively kept silent. So we want to give more victims the chance to be heard, to say how their life has been affected by the crime. And to back that up, we'll be appointing a new Victims Commissioner to make sure that victims' voices are heard not just in court, but right at the heart of government. We need intelligent reform too to open up the whole justice system. Today, I think it is too closed, too opaque, too unaccountable. We hear second-hand what sentence a criminal is getting. Wouldn't it be better if we could hear and watch the result, and hear and watch the reasoning too? So we're legislating to start televising the sentences that judges deliver, so that people can hear why a decision has been reached directly from the judge. This will start in the Court of Appeal next year, and in the long term we want to see this happening in the Crown Court too. Now, when those criminals are convicted, we need to make sure that punishment fits the crime. And at every single level of sentence, this government is getting tougher. Where fines used to be limited, with us, magistrates will be able to impose unlimited fines. While the maximum compensation that criminals used to be liable for was £5,000, we're uncapping that. If you cost someone £10,000, £20,000, you should potentially have to pay that back. And we're toughening up community sentences too. Having a monthly meeting with your probation officer is hardly a punishment. So tomorrow in Parliament, something important is happening. We're laying amendments to the Crime and Courts Bill, making sure that every community sentence contains an element of punishment. And this tough change is aligned again with an intelligent reform. We're introducing new GPS satellite tagging that can pinpoint exactly where offenders are, making it literally possible to duck under the radar. So if you're on a community sentence, you will be supervised, you'll be properly punished, and you'll be forced to complete that sentence. Now, of course, for many crimes, only one form of punishment will do, and that is prison. And I want to be clear. I want to see people who ruin the lives of others, rapists, murderers, muggers, behind bars and kept there for a long time. I've always supported the principle of the life sentence. You do something heinous, and for the rest of your life, you're either in prison or on licence, subject to recall, if you step out of line. I don't believe that's old-fashioned. I believe it's vital. So we're actually increasing the potential for life sentences. There'll be a new 2 strikes and you're out rule, meaning if you commit 2 serious sexual or violent offences, you get life. not at the judge's discretion, but mandatory life. We're increasing the maximum sentence to life for those who import guns and death onto our streets. And we're looking to toughening up knife sentences, because to me a caution for carrying a knife just does not seem to be enough. And if anyone's sentenced to a spell in prison, there will be space in prison. There will be no arbitrary targets for our prison population. The number of people behind bars will not be about bunks available, it will be about how many people have committed serious crimes, full stop. Once they're inside prison, we are toughening up the regime. Too many prisoners see out their time by just lying on their beds for hours and hours, watching TV, doing nothing, learning nothing. So we're turning those prisons from places of idleness to places of work. Like HMP Manchester, where prisoners work in the laundry or printing shop for up to 40 hours a week. I saw myself today at Wormwood Scrubs, a number of programs where it is possible for prisoners to work, and yes, at the same time, to earn. And then they'll be paying some of that money back to their victims too. This should be about fit and able people getting out of their cells, having a structured day, earning respect and earning privileges. So on the punishment of criminals, I don't want there to be any doubt that we will be tougher. But it is not good enough just being tough, locking people up and thinking, that's it. We need to be intelligent too about what happens to these people during and after their punishment. And here's why. At the moment, 6 out of 10 of those leaving jail are reconvicted within 2 years. And if you think that figure's depressing, try this. While those in the care system account for just 1% of the nation's children, a quarter of those in prison were in care as children. Half the prison population say they have no qualifications. We've got to give these people a chance, not just for their sake, but for ours, to stop that revolving door that sucks millions of pounds of public money in and spits thousands of unreformed offenders out. Frankly, we've tried just banging people up, and it's failed. We've tried letting people out with £46 in their pocket and no help on the outside, and guess what? They've gone back to their own old ways. So I'm not going to try to outbid other politicians on toughness, saying let's just bang them up for longer, let's have more isolation, once they're out, they're on their own. I say let's use the time we've got these people inside to have a proper, positive impact on them for all our sakes. It's not a case of prison works or prison doesn't work. We've got to make prison work. And once again, and once people are on the outside, we've got to stick with them and give them proper support. Because it's not outer space we're releasing these people into. It is our streets, our towns, among our families and our children. That's why this government is engaged in what can only be described as a rehabilitation revolution, led by the new Justice Secretary, Chris Grady. His main driving mission is this: to see more people properly punished, but fewer offenders returning to the system. Now, to achieve that, we're saying charities, companies, voluntary sector, come and help us rehabilitate our prisoners. Give offenders new skills, educate them. If they've been in a gang, send a reformed gang member to meet them at the prison gates and take them under their wing. If they're on drugs, try the latest techniques to get them clean. Do whatever it takes to get these people back to living decent, productive lives. Now, we will pay you for that, but, and it is a major part, once again, the payments will depend on results. We're going to pay people by the lives they turn around. So just think of what that means for the taxpayer. When this government came to power, we were spending £40,000 a year just on banging people up. With payment by results, your money will go into what works. Prisoners going straight, crime coming down, our country getting safer. It's such a good idea, I want to put rocket boosters under it. And indeed today I have an announcement to make. By the end of 2015, I want to see payment by results spread right across rehabilitation. Now, of course, there'll be some high-risk offenders for whom this is not appropriate, but this approach should be the norm rather than the exception. And I want to see rehabilitation reach more of those who would benefit from it. Today, rehab just goes to those who've been inside for a year or more, but that misses all those who go in for short sentences, yet reoffend time and time again. So I want to look at making them part of the rehabilitation revolution as well. Now, I've touched on all the parts of the criminal justice chain, from policing to prison, but where we need the most intelligent reform is prevention, stopping all this from happening in the first place. The riots riots last summer were a stark warning that parts of our society are broken. They told us that we need to intervene much, much earlier in the story, before the jail cell, before the robbery, before the petty theft. As the CSJ has argued so passionately, having a strong family is absolutely vital to people's life chances. And we believe that too. Strengthening families, strengthening partnerships, strengthening marriage, encouraging commitment, and it's all very much part of our agenda and will continue to be so. It's also why we're shaking up fostering and adoption, ending the scandal that left children languishing in the care system year after year. It's also why we've refocused Sure Start centres with more parenting classes, reaching out to the parents who really need support. And it's why we're bringing new help to the 120,000 most troubled families in the country, the ones that live in a constant cycle of poverty, addiction, and hopelessness. For these families, we're bringing in professional, targeted help to try to get them into work, get their kids into school, and to try to bring some order to their chaotic lives. Prevention also means something else. Some of those rioters last summer showed a complete indifference to the rules. We need to make clear to young people that respect is not something you just expect. It is something you have to earn. So we're bringing real discipline to schools, with teachers having more power to use reasonable force and take control of their classroom. And crucially, we're focusing on the children who've been excluded from school. Some pupil referral units have been little more than a nursery class before the juvenile detention centre. So we're turning failing PRUs into academies, just as we are with failing schools, so that powerful, effective sponsors can bring the same radical improvements to them as to some of our most challenged schools in the country. On the other side of the coin, we're doing more to encourage good behaviour. We talk a lot about antisocial behaviour, and we should talk as much about pro-social behaviour, the things that encourage good behaviour. National citizen service is about showing young people they have responsibilities as well as rights, and they have a stake in our society. Tens of thousands took part this year, and it's a personal passion of mine that in the coming years this should be a permanent part of the landscape of our country. A rite of passage that every teenager in every school goes through. And all of this fits into the bigger, broader picture of what this government is doing, whether it's changing welfare so there's no more something for nothing, or putting the law on the side of the victims, not the criminals. We are, if you like, rescoring that line between right and wrong, between good behaviour and bad. So I don't want there to be any doubt about how serious this government is about law and order. Yes, we're being tough, but we're being intelligent too. Not just giving police more power, but giving people more power. Not just speeding up our courts, but opening them up. Not just punishing, but rehabilitating too. By taking this approach, we can cut crime even while cutting budgets. We can show law-abiding people that finally the system is on your side. And we can go to all those communities that felt life like a dead end, where crime felt inevitable, and we can restore hope and opportunity there too. This is our goal. An aspiration nation where no one is left behind, and we are absolutely determined to achieve it. Thank you very much indeed for listening. Thank you.